Welcome to the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia, where the world's finest poker players have traveled from across the globe to compete in the Southern Hemisphere's premier poker tournament. FullTiltPoker.net presents the Aussie Millions. Tonight, a rare glimpse into one of poker's biggest games. A table of elite pros compete in an exclusive, invitation-only cash game format. Massive pots will change hands all night, and there's no limit on what can be won or lost.
With a cash game, if I go bad in this game, I might lose 200, 300, 400, 500,000. That takes a little bit to get that back.
The best players in the world playing the biggest cash games. That's just the bottom line.
To me, tournament poker is the biggest grind in history, and a cash game is a rush.
Some of poker's biggest names are about to mix it up with a fortune at stake. From the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia, FullTiltPoker.net presents the Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational. And we welcome you to the Crown Casino here in Melbourne, Australia. Barry Tompkins, my partner, the noted poker author Michael Koenig. And Mike, what a field we've assembled.
Some of the greatest players in the world have come. John Jawanda, three-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner.
Patrick Antonius is one of the best players in Europe.
He hails from Finland, and he is fierce.
David Benjamin, he comes from France. He has 2 World Poker Tour titles already.
One of Europe's biggest cash game players.
Jeff Lissandro, he's a transplanted Italian, now living in Melbourne. Look at the money that he's won.
Very comfortable in the big game, and that man, Phil Ivey, is perhaps the most comfortable, one of the biggest players in the world.
And as good as Phil Ivey has played, maybe this guy has played better this year.
Already, Eric Lindgren won $1 million in the $100,000 buy-in event.
Got to deal with the mouth that roared. Mike Mattis out 2 World Series of Poker bracelets for him.
And that's our X Factor, Masa Kagawa, an amateur from Japan, a wealthy businessman here to play.
Let's talk about the rules. It's no limit Texas Hold'em. Players can buy in for any amount. They can enter or leave the game at any time. And each chip represents an actual Australian dollar amount, about 80 cents to the American dollar.
Here we go, boys.
Here we go, boys, in a cash game. 300 and 600 of the blinds with a $100 ante.
Barry, this is really a great, fresh experience for us. Normally, we are seeing players play with tournament chips. This is real money. Every time they're putting in a bet, they got to back it up with cash.
Pocket nines for Antonius. He's going to raise to 2,000. And Benjamin wakes up with pocket tens. He'll re-raise to 7,000.
So much for a feeling out period.
Yeah.
I mean, right off the bat. Look at this. The pot's already up to. Ivey's reaching for extra chips. He's raising another 18,000 with 6 high.
Those big placards are 25,000. And Ivey with a 6-4. We've seen this before.
I guess you could say Phil Ivey is setting a tone. You guys want to play big? Welcome to my office.
Benjamin makes the call.
And look at David Benjamin. I mean, he's got a pair of 10s, and Phil Ivey has just juiced up this pot. He just calls it 53,000 in that pot.
9 Jack King on the flop.
What a terrible flop for Benjamin. And Antonius is thinking what might have been. He would have flopped a set. But Benjamin, look, he's looking at 2 big overcards. Makes sense that Ivey could have some of that.
37,000 is the bet by Phil Ivey.
So right off the bat, Benjamin is tested, and I just don't see how he calls here. I mean, you've got to give Phil Ivey credit for a big hand. We know he has but a 6 high.
And he's going to fold it, and that 6 high is going to be good enough. And there's $90,000 in our first pot.
You are very good, man. You are very good.
Dangerous.
Genius.
You know what? He don't have a big hand up at the third, baby.
Yeah, Phil Ivey definitely had a big hand for the blackjack table.
Yes.
He told me he was going to do that at dinner tonight. He said, first hand, I'm just not even going to look.
Let's take a look at our chip values, and you can see the black chip is 100. And then you got your $500 chip, nice baby blue $1,000 chip. And, of course, that $25,000 placard.
It looks like what you see in the James Bond movies.
Well, it does, from Monte Carlo, actually, and that's where I first saw those chips, and they still play with those there.
Nice to have a bunch of rectangles in front of you.
Yes. Unfortunately, mine are bricks. John Juanda with an ace-10 offsuit will raise to 2,000.
And Barry, you know, when you see a hand like that, the other players immediately understand that if they want to get into any pot, they might have to be willing to commit all their chips.
I know you're just attacking Mikey's blind.
Yeah, I'm just weak.
So 2 players to the flop, ace-6 against ace-10.
And Juanda has position on Lindgren.
And there is another 6 for Lindgren.
Don't be attacking me.
Not yet.
Lindgren checks.
I think he's trapping here, Barry. I know Lindgren suspects he has the best hand right now.
John Juanda, one of the most steady players in the world. 3,500 is the bet.
Little sort of probing bet, trying to figure out where he's at. And Lindgren, by calling there, really doesn't give him an answer.
A queen on the turn. Check from Lindgren.
Juanda looks
72.
like he's continuing.
7,200, says Juanda.
Well, the first bet was a prober. This one's a tester. I mean, Lindgren's got to decide, is my 6 still good? The queen can be a troublesome card. He thinks he's okay.
And he may be. To the river. Another queen.
Now Lindgren, I believe, just wants to show this hand down. And Juanda has to decide, can he bluff Lindgren off this? Or he might want to show it down too. Maybe he thinks his ace high is good.
Check.
Check from Juanda, check from Lindgren, and Lindgren will win the hand.
26,000 just by having the courage to hang in there with a very middling pair. And look at it this way, Eric Lindgren, in addition to the $1 million he won earlier this week, he's now got his next 2 World Series of Poker buy-ins taken care of.
He is rolling, and so are we. This is the FullTiltPoker.net Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitation. We welcome you back to the FullTiltPoker.net Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational.
Well, the biggest difference between cash and tournament poker is in a tournament, you buy in for $10,000. Let's say you see a couple $100,000 pot. If the person loses, he's going to lose $10,000 his entry fee. In a cash game, if he loses a couple $100,000 pot, he's going to lose a couple $100,000.
Well, tournaments, you might see some all-in moves. You might see a lot of craziness that comes to a tournament because all you can lose is that tournament buy-in. Here, if you lose, you can rebuy, put another 100, 200, whatever you want on the table and go again.
I try not to bluff as much in the cash game. In the tournament, sometimes you can get away with it.
People are going to see a lot of people taking a lot of flops. They're going to see a lot of poker. They're not going to see just all-in call, come over the top. You're going to see a lot of flops.
There's a lot of playing and you have to make a lot of different situations. The board is changing. The luck factor is less. And I prefer this kind of game. I love it.
Having these cash games on TV is really big because you get to see a whole different form of poker and what poker is really all about.
I'm Barry Tompkins, along with my partner Michael Koenig. And Michael, as the guy said, we're looking at a very different form of Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, we're accustomed